Hello, hello. This is the Digital Loop Season 3, Episode 13. Hi, Ivan. How are you this week?
Hi, Paul. Doing great. Really glad to be back here in the Digital Loop and really looking forward to this conversation this week.
Yeah, it's a conversation. We switch gears like every week. I mean, not always every week, but we try. We promised you last episode we would have an episode before Bitspiration, which happens in Warsaw next week. And here you go. We're recording this just before Bitspiration. So we're switching gears because we were talking a lot these past times about entrepreneurship. We talked about, a little bit on the whole ecosystem. We want to focus back on one of the key things that we've used to talk about a lot in the early episodes of the Digital Loop, which is advertising. But not only advertising, you'll understand it's a bit more. There was actually an episode, you remember, Ivan, we did an episode of the future on advertising. It was season 1. We almost closed, I think, the season with that episode. I think it was episode 23 of season 1. The reason why is that because you shared with me an article that was pretty interesting about the immersive storytelling for advertising. So I will let you go into this, but before you do that, it's true that advertising is having a struggle, basically. I mean, of course, with the move to mobile, there's less real estate on the screen to do advertising. People, the way they consume stuff also allows less place for advertising. I mean, all the fundamentals of advertising online, which were created by Google and others, are shifting very rapidly. And we see that the effect of advertising is becoming less and less. That explains the success of companies like BuzzFeed, who are doing what now the current word is native advertising, which you're blurring the line between an article and an advert. And we hear more and more like attempts like that. Not all of them are successful. Some of them, like BuzzFeed, seems to be successful. Some of them also raise questions about the ethics of advertising, because if you blur the line too much, when does it stops being advertising and it's just information? So immersive advertising, the article you sent me, is even like going one step even further. So I'll let you introduce what is immersive advertising and immersive storytelling.
Yes, I mean, this is an article written by Frank Rose. He actually also wrote a book about this subject, about immersive media. And in this article, which we're going to add in the show notes, basically he talks about, yes, exactly, the struggles that the advertising industry is having. He talks about, for example, Nielsen's Global Trust Advertising Report says that more than half Europeans and 1/3 of Americans distrust ads in any medium. He also talks about the fact that 84% of US millennials dislike advertising and are unlikely to be persuaded by it. So what's happening is advertising is having a hard time continue to work the way they've been doing for the last few decades. However, what he argues in this article is that storytelling, which in a way it's the essence of advertising, is one of the big elements important in advertising, is as important, if not even more important than ever. And he looks at how, for example, the entertainment industry really understands this, and the development of huge franchise like, I don't know, the Hunger Games or Harry Potter, or all these different films and pieces.
Entertainment franchises, because it goes, like you said, beyond films. It gets like the whole universe. I mean, of course,
exactly.
Star Wars is a very potent example where you have everything that goes around it, not only the movie, which is one of the vehicles, but the entire thing. But go on.
Exactly. I mean, what he talks about is about immersion. And immersion, he defines it as the experience of losing oneself in a fictional world. So basically, it's not engagement, because engagement is when you have an action based on that. I mean, it provokes some sort of action, right?
Yeah, you see something, you see an ad, you see a tweet, you see something, and you actually immediately in your brain kind of reacts to it and say, "Oh, that's interesting," or "Oh, this has my attention for a moment." Immersion is much deeper than that.
Yeah, I like how he says that immersion happens when the audience forgets that it's an audience at all. And again, I guess this is very important to understand the fact that when we're talking about immersion, as Frank Rose defines it, is when it blurs the lines, between story and marketing, between being storyteller or an audience, and between illusion and reality. And this is again what video games, for example, are really good at. And this is why the development of video games and internet, you can see how digital technologies are having a huge impact on this. And interesting enough, he mentioned also the fact that millennials actually have expressed a huge predilection for what they call immersive experiences. Basically, how they are really, really blurring these lines between reality and virtual, and actually really, really going deep into these stories. And again, well, as you can tell, the Hunger Games, for example, is a perfect example of how something started as a book. Has become an entire experience that has millions of people around the world going crazy about it. And
So yeah, so here what you're saying is basically that the power of the story is so potent that we tend to forget that we're in a story, and we tend to, like you said, blurring the line. The suspension of disbelief, which is the basics of movie, of entertainment, is like you feel you're totally in it. It's like the holodeck from Star Trek or something, right? It's like you are, or even virtual reality, which was a topic of a few other episodes we've made this season. So I understand that, but don't you think at some point, I mean, the lines are becoming so blurry? You just mentioned the fact that the lines are blurred between fact and fiction. So how do you think advertising can fit in there?
I mean, I think that the best approach is again, as he mentioned, and as we've been talking about this for so long, it's not about the message, but it's actually about experience. And I think that when advertisers are making the mistake that they just focus on, you know, telling the story, but not actually on getting people immersed in the story, if that makes sense. And in a way, I think there are different ways to do it, and some of the examples that we've been talking about, I think, are really, really good examples of how it's not just about the story, but it's about the values and about everything that is connected with the brand. A good example of this could be, for example, Apple. When you go to an Apple store, it's an experience, and it's a completely different. You get into immerse in all these products and in all these values that Apple has. You can feel and you can see Apple everywhere. Same thing, for example, with I don't know, GoPro, for example. GoPro, the fact that you are using the products to take these videos, and you go online, and the advertising that they are doing for the videos are amazing videos themselves. You know, the story of the product builds on the message that they are giving away, and as a result, everybody is getting more immersed in the whole story. Also, the story of how the company was built. The founder came up with the idea of he went surfing, and he wanted he came up with an idea of maybe strapping a disposable camera on his wrist to take pictures while surfing, and he realized, hey, this is a good idea and nobody's doing it. And based on that, he built all this new series of cameras that it has the story within it. You know, it's an important part of the element. It's not just, you know, I don't know, Sony or a big electronics company coming up with a new product just because they can. So it's more than that.
So what you're telling me here is that, I mean, we talked, like you said, many times about the power of experiences, and that how we all moving toward experiences for products, for services, but also apparently for advertising. But it's even more, it's the power of storytelling. And this is also something that we covered with Alex Barrera. I think also was it season 1 as well. I don't recall exactly. How, you know, the power of story, you just said the story about GoPro kind of helps you either empathize or even identify with a brand or with a product, with a service, with the person who represents all of these. And thus then having that kind of almost abstraction level between you and the brand. And this is part of the answer for you when it comes to advertising, right?
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think advertising itself, I guess, is just part of the whole engine. We need to look at media. We need to look at marketing. We need to look at all the different elements that are connected with advertising itself. A good example that they mentioned in the article is Burberry. Burberry is a company that for many years was having problems, but they have made a lot of very interesting developments when it comes down to the merging of digital and traditional. One of the examples is they created something called the Burberry World, and in one store, which is a really old, really classy, really elegant store, I believe it's in London, it really well blurs digital and physical. Mention about mirrors that turn into screens. RFID tags that trigger pop-up videos about craftsmanship and about the values of the company, and you know, live music. You have live music during at the store. So again, everything that is connected with the brand, everything that is connected with the values of the brand, you are getting these messages and you're getting this, but it's not just a poster giving you a
No, of course not.
a promotion, but it's part of the story. And I think that's what he means about immersion, about getting insight into the world of the brand, and using digital and using advertising in order to do that, even when advertising is no longer working as it used to. So we need to have a new approach, and that's basically what he's talking about.
Yeah, it's fascinating, because one of the other approaches, which is not exactly, I mean, I mentioned BuzzFeed, but Snapchat is also trying stuff like this, where they also blurring the line between the experience of being within the app and the stories. I don't know if any of you guys want, you should install Snapchat and try to discover part of Snapchat when you have brands that tell you stories. There are also news outlets that give that at the same time. But that's obviously one step, because what you're telling me here is that the power of stories is obviously very strong, because as I said earlier, it creates an abstraction level. We believe in the stories we read or we see or we tell ourselves. And it's the power of movies, as you said earlier, or the power of a book. I mean, just think about it. When you read a book, a fiction book, and you haven't seen the movie yet, and then a movie is released, and you said, but this is now how I imagined it. Because you created a simulation in your head. You created the entire story in your head, which helped you identify and empathize with the story. So what you're telling here, or what Frank Rose is basically proposing here, is that these types of dynamics and these types of factors have to be, can be used as well by brands or for advertising, and of course more, because when I say advertising, let's be clear here, I'm talking about like something more generic, and the entire concept, not like the single banner or something, right? So, I mean, it's obviously something that's working, and we've seen one of the other examples could be product placement. I mean, you mentioned video games is something that is very strong. When you see a video game, you feel your inside is. So thus, if your character is using a product in the game, you might associate yourself with that product, and then of course go and buy it in real life in brackets. Same thing could happen in a movie. We see, the James Bond franchise is very well known to have a lot of product placement, again, because these product placement make look, oh, I want to be like James Bond, thus I'm going to find. But this, where I'm not concerned, but let's say it's still a concern. It's like, I understand that, advertising in general is dwindling. We see that the effect, you mentioned some numbers, the effect of advertising is going lower and lower, which is clearly the case, because I think we develop ad blocks in our brain. The ad block, that the software you can use, but we have ad blocks in our brain, but there's too much stuff around us, too much noise, you don't see it anymore. So obviously, you're going towards, I don't know if you've seen the movie The Zero Theorem by Terry Gilliam, but it's a world that you're surrounded by advertising all the time. And this is a bit the part where I'm a bit more, maybe because I'm old, I don't know, the part I'm a bit more concerned is like, okay, so we're blurring the line between facts and fiction. We're blurring the line between information and advertising or marketing. We blur the line about everything because you want to suspend your disbelief. But that almost creates like ethical questions as to what is the limit and especially when you think about the discussion we've had partially with Dean Johnson about virtual reality, because in virtual reality, you are absolutely within the story. Oculus is about to release its product for consumers. So imagine how strong the power of a brand within that story, within a virtual reality could be. I don't know if I don't know what, I'm not even looking for an answer from you, but it's something that will at some point, I guess, have some, not pushback or clash, but maybe people will start to be concerned about how, invasive advertising could become.
Yeah, I am not a neuroscientist. I just play one in the movies. Yeah, but again, when it talks that, it's something that we've been talking also about with Dean, and this article mentioned it about the advancements in technology connected with neuroscience. I think that this is also something that marketers and advertisers right away are starting to look and dig into it to have a better understanding of how to actually reach out their consumers. A very good friend of us, Kei Shimada, he's a global innovations director of Dentsu, this global advertising company, who, by the way, breaking news, will be coming to the Digital Loop sometime in the near future. So
Exactly.
Stay tuned for that. Yeah, I saw him not long ago in Bulgaria when both of us we were speaking at Digitalk, and he talked about what he's doing to look to understand what is going to happen in 3-5 years, and the advancements when he talks about neuroscience and talking about really going deep into, I don't know, brain waves to really understand what are the best way to connect with consumers. It's really fascinating. And he mentioned one of the products that they have is called Miko, and basically
Yeah, yeah.
it's kind of like headphones that you put on your head, and it reads your brain waves, and it proposes songs. It gives you a choices of songs based on your mood,
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
if you think about it, is fascinating. Because in a way, my first approach was kind of like joking. I said, well, if I'm depressed because, I don't know, my girlfriend or my boyfriend dumped me and I want to listen to Celine Dion, I don't need a machine
What?
to tell me that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, that was my, I have a weird sense of humor. Anyway, but Kay, he was like, well, yes, but Celine Dion, and maybe The Power of Love, and that's the song you want to listen. But what about a song that maybe you don't know, and a song that actually could be a better fit for your mood in that specific place, that actually could become your favorite song? Just you simply don't know it, and I think here the element of serendipity and the element of exploring and knowing new products, new services, new ideas. I think that's fascinating. And everything, not because you write something or because something you do, is because of your brain is telling this
But
device.
I agree. But I mean, I haven't tested that one. I've tested the other. So the company behind this product is NeuroWare, a Japanese company. They also done the bunny ears or cat ears. I think it was cat ears. So they read your brain, and depending on what you think, they actually move around. It's pretty fun. That was more an experiment than actually something useful, because music here, like you said, is useful. Actually, that reminds me of Spotify. Spotify just upgraded its engine, and though they cannot read your mood yet, they're starting to go into the direction of actually understanding your tastes and understanding your activities and the context, basically. And because of the context, give you a playlist, create a playlist for you that just works for you. We have a friend both that works at Spotify. We should have him at some point, because it's a fascinating thing. But so it's the power of data here. Before going to the power of the brain, the power of data already, because we have so much information that about ourselves out there. The more contextual these tools become, the more actually they can give you, again, this immersive type of experience. Again, there's always the other side of the coin, is like, do I want actually all that stuff to be out there, or do I even want my brain that I cannot even read myself to be? I mean, I can read to some extent my brain, but I mean, to have some machine that understands me better. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying yes or no. I'm saying that it's both fascinating, but it is a bit something for me that is like, wow, at what point will it become creepy to get these type of experiences? But I agree. I mean, I think there's no way out, because first of all, of course, technology is moving faster. We say that in every episode. We don't need to repeat ourselves. But at the same time, advertisers, brands having a problem with too much noise, and have to differentiate, and they have to catch your attention. And your attention span is becoming so small, not you, Ivan, but everyone's, because of the amount of noise, that having to go deeper into like immersion via some neuroscience is actually probably the way that most advertising will go. And again, I repeat myself here, but the fact that virtual and augmented reality are coming out of on age will actually also influence it. I don't know where we're going with that, but it's actually something that is really fascinating as an experience, as to see it happening. I don't know how I would react as a person to all of this, but it's true that, and I'm sure part of what you said, a part of the reason that Facebook bought Oculus is, of course, first they don't want to lose to the next whatever big thing is, but Facebook also relies on advertising. So at some point, there might be also some tie-ins in here to actually create that immersive experience of you talking with your friends, you being with your friends, even though they're not in the same room, you having this kind of family or friendship surrounding you. And then you could actually add some type of ads. I don't know in which way. So that's something as well that could happen.
Absolutely. So until then, I guess the message for marketers and advertisers is to understand again the power of storytelling, but not to actually go deeper than just trying to give empty messages and funny pictures, but actually try to really transmit the values of the brand, the values of the story, and make people care so they get inside the
Correct.
story with you. I will recommend two things. One, to listen to a great podcast, one of my favorite podcasts, 6 Pixels of Separation by Mitch Joel.
Joel, yeah.
This week he had Frank Rose as a guest,
Oh,
so
okay.
we're gonna add the link to that conversation, and that then you can get a little bit, because you can read the article, but when you have a discussion, you get a little bit more meat to the subject. So highly recommend that check out that podcast and also read the article, because it's a really interesting topic. And I guess from our side that's it. I don't know if you have anything else to add, Paul.
No. I mean, Immersion will be for us in Poland. I mean, I'll go to meet you in Warsaw very shortly, and so we hope that we might record something in Poland if we have time, because I'll be the host of the conference there, Bitspiration, on June 21st and 22nd, I think, or 22nd, 23rd, 22nd, 23rd. So we hope to record a show there that will be released. We, like Ivan said earlier, Kei Shimada is coming up as our next guest very shortly as well. So we'll have very cool content coming up. So the Immersion will be with you and Polish vodka, I think.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. Once again, if you want to know more about the Digital Loop, you just go to our website, thedigitalloop.co. And if you happen to go to Bitspiration, come and say hi. We love talking with you guys. And both Paul and I will be at Bitspiration this year. So if you have anything you want to talk, chat with us, just come and join us. And if you want to get immersed with vodka, just go with Paul.
Oh my God. On that, thank you, Ivan. See you next week. Bye, guys.
Have a great day, guys. Bye.